Good morning. I'm Hassan Giordano, and this is your DMV Daily Dose for Monday, February 24th, 2020.
It's currently clear and 34 degrees in Baltimore. Expect mostly cloudy skies starting in the morning. Today's high will be 55 degrees, and the low will be 33.
Well, the week began with Maryland returning to number 7 in the Associated Press Top 25 men's basketball poll, matching the Terps' preseason ranking. By the time Sunday's ranked matchup with number 25 Ohio State approached, Maryland found itself positioned to make a leap heading into the final 2 weeks of the regular season, as number 9 Penn State dropped back-to-back games, widening Maryland's lead in the Big Ten, and 4 of the 6 teams ranked above Maryland in the AP poll last opened a lane for the Terps to slip into one of the projected top 4 seeds in the NCAA tournament. But the Terps failed to take advantage of that opportunity, as senior guard Anthony Cowan Jr. fouled out with 3 minutes and 54 seconds left in the game Sunday after receiving a technical foul in his 5th personal foul, and Ohio State defeated Maryland 79-72, ending the Terps' 9-game winning streak. The Baltimore Brewers reported on Israeli investors in a Baltimore rental management company who have filed a federal class action lawsuit charging fraud and racketeering, saying that the brothers who control Waze Management and several related companies misled them about the price, condition, and even the number of units in the building sold. The same brothers allegedly overcharged for renovation work that was often not done, and then kept rents for themselves while failing to pay property taxes and bank mortgages, or in some cases, reselling the buildings altogether. I call them the Bernie Madoffs of Baltimore, says Jamil Zaire, the plaintiff's lawyer. You're talking about people's life savings. They go after these very vulnerable folks without pity, he asserted, estimated that more than 100 victims were defrauded of tens of millions of dollars. The allegations in the lawsuit are just the latest in a city staggered by waves of real estate fraud. Now, Waze principals, brothers Isaac and Benjamin Ozano, combine most, if not all, of their classic tactics, the suit alleges: selling properties they didn't own, telling investors their units weren't rented even when they were, and taking the rents and not paying. The plaintiffs also uncovered instances where even after the defendant's fraud was discovered and the management agreement was terminated, the brothers' defendants unlawfully continued to exercise control over properties that they no longer manage, placing tenants in them and collecting rent for those tenants without the owner's knowledge or permission, the suit says, which was filed in the U.S. District Court of Maryland on Wednesday and first reported by Courthouse News Service. Emails, phone calls, and texts by the brewer to Waze Management listed contacts brought no response. Well, Maryland Matters is reporting that after almost 20 years of consideration, the Housing Opportunities Made Equal Home Act was finally passed in the state Senate chamber on Friday. The bill, which was initially introduced by Senator Dolores Kelly, a Democrat from Baltimore County, in years past, was brought back this year by Senator Will Smith of Montgomery County, who got it passed for the first time in its history in the state Senate this year with a vote of 34-12. Now, should the House follow suit and the bill is signed into law, it would make it illegal for landlords to discriminate against prospective renters based on their lawful source of income, providing protections for people who receive alimony, Social Security benefits, and housing or Section 8 vouchers. Now, the House Environment and Transportation Committee Chairman Kumar Barve, a Democrat from Montgomery County, said that not only will the bill be heard in his committee, but it will in fact get passed this session. Now, 15 states and the District of Columbia have implemented these protections, and that several Maryland jurisdictions, including Anne Arundel, Baltimore, Montgomery, and Prince George's counties, have all passed it as well. According to key analysts, 115,000 Marylanders hold housing vouchers, and of those, 59% are employed. Maryland Matters is also reporting on a poll that shows that the vast majority of Maryland residents believe that teacher salaries are too low and that many school buildings are in poor condition. But there is little support for increasing taxes to address those concerns. The poll, conducted by Goucher College, found that 69% of the public agrees that public schools in Maryland don't receive enough state funding. In addition, 85% said that they believe teachers are underpaid, and 76% agreed that many public school buildings and facilities in Maryland are run down. But when the interviewers asked about increasing taxes, sharp divisions emerged, as more than a third of Marylanders, 37%, would rather keep state services and taxes where they are. And even more troubling for advocates of education reform, 28% would rather have fewer state government services in order to reduce taxes. Only 28% of those surveyed said that they would be willing to pay more in taxes if it meant improved state services. Quote, "There is a huge disconnect," said political science professor Malia Cromer, a director of the Sarah T. Hughes Fields Politics Center at Goucher College. They support the priorities of Kerwin, higher teacher salaries, more teacher training, and more state funding, but the conflict is, how do we pay for it? Well, only 47% of residents polled ranked Maryland as a good or excellent place to get a K-12 education. The poll also found that crime, for the first time since Goucher started querying voters, is now the top concern of state residents. 20% of those surveyed identify crime and criminal justice policies as the most important issue facing the state, just ahead of education at 17% and economic issues at 15%. But at the request of Maryland Matters, Cromer provided additional data that revealed a strong geographical split. Among residents living in Baltimore City and the surrounding counties, 33% identify crime as the top issue, followed by education at 15% and economic issues at 13%. But in the populous Washington, D.C. suburbs, public sentiment was more in line with past polling. Residents of Montgomery and Prince George's County rated education as their biggest issue at 25%. Economic issues followed at 15%, with crime the top concern of just 6% of residents. Likewise, in communities outside of the state's urban corridor, economic issues remained the top concern at 19%, followed by crime at 11%, and 8% goes to education. Now, Baltimore City recorded 348 homicides just last year alone, and Governor Hogan and legislative leaders have called the situation there a crisis. This is the first time it's ever ticked up this high, Cromer said of the statewide numbers on crime. It's on the minds of one of the most populous jurisdictions in the state. Now, speaking of crime, there have been 45 homicides in Baltimore City this year thus far, 53 days into the new year, topping the number we witnessed last year at this time, which was the most bloody year per capita ever recorded in the city's history. But the long-time practice of releasing balloons to honor the life and the memory of loved ones who have been tragically taken from us will now cost Marylanders $250 and up. With a 92-47 vote Thursday in the Maryland House of Delegates, both chambers of the Maryland General Assembly have now voted to ban the intentional release of balloons into the air, says Baltimore Sun reporter Luke Broadwater. The bill, sponsored by Eastern Shore Republican Delegate Wayne Hartman, establishes a civil fine of up to $250 for the release of a balloon by an organization or an individual who is at least 13 years of age. The goal, proponents say, is to end the practice of celebratory balloon releases that often leave litter miles away. Now, the Senate version, sponsored by Senator Clarence Lamb of Howard County, passed by a vote of 38-8. And later today at 4 p.m., members of Voice, the voters organized for the integrity of city elections, will be back to host a protest and press conference regarding the unfair coverage of the 2020 mayor's race by one television station, Sinclair-owned Fox 45, whose biased coverage of the race and continued support of one candidate in particular, Mr. Tharu Vignaraja, has caused many to pause in their belief that anything that Fox reports is actual news as opposed to self-serving, sensationalized, and fake journalism. Joining members of Voice later today will be members of the DMV Daily News and the Value My Vote 2020 series, along with candidates for council and for mayor, some of whom have been unfairly refused a seat on the stage of Fox 45's City in Crisis town halls. You can join us live at 4 o'clock today at 2000 West 41st Street, right in front of Fox 45 Studios, to make your voice heard as well. I'm your man, Mr. Politics, and this has been your DMV Daily Dose for Monday, February 24th, 2020. For more information on the articles that I've mentioned, just go on over to that website, www.dmvdaily.news.